Over the last couple of days, students have started to return to school here in Australia, as we know, even at our own primary schools and secondary schools throughout our parish. Having talked to parents over the years, one of the common questions or one of the common concerns that parents have about a school is, will there be any bullying at the school? And the reality for most of us in our lives is that we've experienced bullying. And probably some of us have even been bullies as well. Bullying is something that's very common. Unfortunately, in the early church, bullying was occurring then as well. Most of the time, if you're in the mainstream, you don't get bullied. If you're in the most popular group, if you've got most people behind you, you don't get bullied. Whereas in the early church, the first Christians, they weren't even a minority group within the Roman Empire. Judaism was a minority group. The early Christians were a splinter group of the Jewish group. They were hated by the minorities. They were hated by the Jewish people. They were hated by the Roman Empire. And there was immense suffering that the early Christians experienced. We see this happening literally weeks after Pentecost. They're out starting to tell people then start to become Christians, and then only a few weeks after Pentecost we have the first martyr. And people are telling them, you shouldn't be Christians. Give up being a Christian, go and become Jewish again. Or why are you becoming a Christian? You should be a pagan. You want to get on in the Roman Empire, become a pagan, etc., etc. There was all sorts of bullying that was happening. And the letter to the Hebrews today is bringing something of this sense into it. Do we just give up on what we truly hold to? Do we give up on what we believe and just hold to whatever's the most popular thing or the most mainstream thing? And unfortunately, to a certain extent, democracy has sort of almost pushed us all to the middle. And it's pushed us almost to the situation whereby we give up as to what we truly hold to. And it's almost as if, well, having actually a moral compass or actually having a conscience is less important than just being in the middle of what everybody else holds to. This is what the letter to the Hebrews says. You and I are not the sort of people who draw back, who are lost by it. We are the sort who keep faithful until our souls are saved. And keeping faithful is hard. It's being able to accept the fact that we will be persecuted. Or in a school context, we will be bullied. I remember talking to one principal from a Catholic school, and he said, parents come and ask, oh, do you have bullying in your school? And his response was, we have bullying. Every school has bullying. Any principal who says, or any school who says there's no bullying in their school is lying. Because even if you have the situation whereby you force everyone to become the same, you forced everyone to become a whatever version of the middle or the majority, that's a form of bullying in itself. That we can't actually hold to anything of our own conscience. The challenge of the early church Christian community is, as we heard, remember all the sufferings that you had to meet after you received the light. And this will happen, and it probably has happened to each and every one of us and those watching at home as well in many and different ways. Let us be courageous. Let us be courageous for the light, but be courageous for conscience. If someone holds a different position to ourselves, don't force them to come to the majority position. Let's inquire about what they are holding, what they hold to. And if we don't agree with someone, let's have a reasoned and a Christian conversation with them about what they hold to and what we hold to. And if we hold different positions, that's okay. The early church Christian community were okay with that. The challenge is when people said, no, you can't be a Christian. Give up or we're going to persecute you and make you suffer. It's a modern version of suffering and persecution happens in our schools, in our workplaces, and even in our society today through bullying and other forms of undermining faith and conscience. Let's be inspired by those early church Christians, be inspired by those who've been persecuted for their faith throughout history, and let us live our faith courageously. You and I are not the sort of people who draw back and are lost by it. We are the sort who keep faithful until our souls are saved.